Hello, this is Joseph Zodel. Today's video is on the presidential election of 1876. Quite a wild ride. So we had three candidates of major parties. Rutherford B. Hayes as the Republican, Samuel Tilden was the Democrat, and Peter Cooper on the Greenback Party. Now, Greenback Party didn't win any states, so we'll just set them aside for a discussion today. But in fact, yes, they were there. After the election, there were some disputed votes. The undisputed votes were 165 for Hayes, the Republican, and 184 for Tilden, the Democrat. Needed to win 185 of the 369 electoral votes to win the presidency. Tilden, therefore, only needed one more vote. Hayes needed 20 more votes. The disputed electoral votes are here. Florida, all 4, Louisiana, all 8, South Carolina, all 7, and Oregon, only 1 of the 3 electoral votes cast. That's the only story that has the sound legal constitutional basis, and it was still done wrong. So we need to win 185. Here are the popular votes for those 4 states. As you can see, Tilden won Florida, but by the narrowest of margins. Tilden won Louisiana by a better margin. And so from this, he should have received those electoral votes, of which he only needed 1. Hayes won South Carolina by a relatively narrow margin, and also Oregon by a very narrow margin. So that's the makeup. 2 states went Democratic, 2 states went Republican in the popular vote. If the electoral votes were awarded according to the popular votes in the state, then we would have had 196 electoral votes for Tilden and 173 for Hayes. And Tilden only needed 185. So what happened in Oregon is that one of the electors for the Republican ticket, who won on the popular vote, was a postmaster. In the Constitution, it says very clearly, no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. Now, being a postmaster is an office where you receive profit, your salary, under the United States. So the governor of Oregon disallowed that vote. He was a Democrat. Now we have 2 electoral votes sure for Hayes out of Oregon and 1 that has been disallowed. Well, they're still entitled to 3 electoral votes, so what do we do now? So the Democratic governor of Oregon certified the person who came in 4th, another Democrat, as an Oregon elector, which would made 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat. That 1 vote would have put Tilden into the White House in the 1876 election. Now, since the Constitution is so clear, we can't say, even though he's a Democrat appointing a Democrat, that he did something wrong because he was following the Constitution. But the Republicans of Oregon didn't like the way it turned out, and so they did their own certification and sent that into Washington, and that certification was the 3 Republican electors. So on those certifications, 2 of the electors appear on both the governor's certification and the Republican certification, and then we have 1 Democrat on the governor's certification and 1 Republican on the Republican certification. So now we have some confusion about who gets that 1 vote. Now in the other states, well, a lot of politics involved there. So what happens in the other 3 states? In Florida, where the election was very, very close in the popular vote, both the Republicans and the Democrats claimed victory. Each accused the other of fraud and of intimidation. So they ended up with 2 canvassing boards, 1 dominated by Republicans and 1 by Democrats. So you guessed it, each sent in a certification of the 4 electors of their party. So now we have 2 sets of votes from Florida. And then we have Louisiana. As we saw, Louisiana was not really all that close, but still, while Tilden won according to the initial popular vote, the state board threw out thousands of Democratic votes, citing intimidation of Black Republican voters. The Democrats claimed the board was corrupt and manipulated the count by throwing out ballots that should not have been thrown out. So they sent in their certification along with the state certification, and so we have 2 different certifications for the 8 Louisiana votes. In South Carolina, where we have 7 votes, and Hayes did win by a small margin, we had federal troops present. This was still Reconstruction, and they were accused of violent suppression of black voters. But both parties claimed the others used fraud and coercion, and each submitted an election certificate. So for 4 states, we have 2 sets of electoral vote certificates, 2 sets of electoral votes cast by people certified by somebody to be the elector. The only clear case constitutionally and legally is in Oregon. Ultimately, Congress decided to appoint a commission in order to decide which electoral votes to accept, essentially washing their hands of making those 4 decisions. The commission was to consist of 5 members of the House of Representatives, 5 members of the Senate, and 5 members of the Supreme Court. So we have those 2 branches of government appointing a commission that will decide who will be the next president and next vice president. Here's the breakdown of Congress in 1876. As you see, the Democrats had a majority in the House of Representatives, and the Republicans had a majority in the Senate. So when the 1876 commission members from Congress are appointed, as you might have guessed, 5 from the House and 5 from the Senate. So with the Democrats in control of the House of Representatives, they had a majority of members of the commission from the House, 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. In the Senate, where the Republicans held sway, there were 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats appointed. And then we have the Supreme Court. This is the makeup of the Supreme Court in 1876. As you see, we have 2 Democrats, 6 Republicans, and 1 independent. Some people say the Chief Justice appointed the members of the commission, but that's not true. It was a consensus by all the members of the Supreme Court at the time. And they duly appointed Nathan Clifford and Stephen Field as the Democratic representatives. Note that there are only 2 Democrats available. Then they appointed Samuel Miller and William Strong to be the Republican representatives. So now we have 4. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. It is left up to them to decide who the 5th member should be. They chose David Davis, the one independent on the Supreme Court. We haven't seen independents on the Supreme Court in a long time, but we did then. The makeup of the commission then, of 15 members, becomes 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans, and 1 independent. This essentially put David Davis in charge of deciding who would be the next president and the next vice president, because he would have the deciding vote with everybody else voting according to party lines. Well, that's a lot of power. The last member actually was Joseph Philo Bradley, a Republican. At that time, senators were chosen by the state legislatures. Davis was from Illinois. The Illinois legislature, in their wisdom, decided to appoint him to the United States Senate as a senator from Illinois. So when he resigned from the court, and we already had senators on the commission, essentially he couldn't serve on the commission. There was no place for him. As you recall, we have 2 Democrats on the Supreme Court who were already appointed. Now we have a vacancy from David Davis. We have 2 Republicans who were appointed, so yes, they appointed one of the remaining 4 Republicans, Joseph Philo Bradley, to fill the slot. There really, at that point, was no other alternative because it couldn't be a Democrat. We had the only 2 Democrats available, and it couldn't be an independent because he was gone. The only choice was 1 more Republican. So the final roster is we have 7 Democrats and we have 8 Republicans. Everybody voted according to party lines, so the final decision was Hayes was the president by 1 vote on the commission, which Congress then ratified, going along with what the commission had decided. Now, why did the Democrats stand for this? Coming back to that Oregon vote, if everything else had happened the way it happened, but the 1 vote from Oregon, which was constitutionally permitted that the person in 4th place would be the elector, Tilden would have gotten the 1 vote he needed and the other 19 votes wouldn't have mattered. Why did the Democrats stand for all of this? This was the Compromise of 1877. This was not a law, it was an informal agreement. The Civil War had ended in 1865, but Reconstruction was still going strong with U.S. military still stationed in southern states. The South wanted an end to it, and the Southern Democrats pressured the Northern and Western Democrats to let it be as long as the Republicans promised to end Reconstruction, which Hayes did. That's the story. Now, since that mess, we have had legislation that has codified electoral vote counting in federal statutes. The links to those are below in the description. Please post your comments. I'd love to hear from you. And here are some additional videos available right now on this channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notifications bell so you don't miss any of the new videos we'll have coming up. Thank you for joining me today.